Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. I hope you're all doing well, and this is going to be a project that's going to be a little bit different. So those of you that have been watching the content on the channel have seen that I've been trying to experiment to get orchids, and this is probably the closest I've got so far, but I've still got some of those blobs in there because of how much bloom I had to put on those petals for it to come all the way inwards. Love the effect from adding the alcohol ink after it's bloomed, so I really like how that worked out, and I think it gives it a really natural effect. And again, I don't mind the stamens in the middle either. I don't mind that some of those have come to the surface. I think it makes it look more 3D. So this was attempt 1. This was attempt 2, which again I quite liked, but it wasn't the look I'm going for. Now I've been thinking to myself, maybe I'm trying to make the orchids too big, but you know me, I love big projects as well. So I'm going to try something different, and I've been racking my brains last night. And I've come up with this design that you can see, which is a sprig, hopefully, of orchids, or it looks similar anyway. And I've got this quite deep mould. I think it holds around about 24 ounces in total. So I'm going to try and do this in 3 layers and see what happens. And again, I don't know what's going to happen with these because, again, the bloom effect, it's all going to try and pull to that centre. And I've never tried it in a rectangular mould, so that'll be interesting. But what I want to do is try this in probably 3 layers. So the first layer I'm going to do today, let it cure. And the first layer, what I'm planning to do is put about 8 ounces of resin in. So I've got probably ½ centimetre at least of resin then, because you need some in to make it bloom. I'm going to put the centres in on that first layer, and try just for these big round petals. And that's why I've drawn myself a bit of a guide. So I know it's going to move, I know it's going to shift, but it gives me a rough idea for the first layer of where I want things. If they stay there is another matter, because resin will move. And this is going to use, as I say, a lot of resin, so around about 24 ounces. Now in that second attempt as well, where I used the thicker Jiaochun resin, it really struggled to come inwards and bloom, and I think that's because I waited for the temperature to get to the normal temperature that I use for my medium viscosity resin, which is the Let's Resin 1:1. So I'm actually going to try and pour this at around about 31 degrees as well, just to give it a bit more time to hopefully bloom, with it being a thick resin. Normally I'd wait till around about 35 to 38 with my Let's Resin 1:1, but with this Jiaochun one, with it being so thick, I think that's what prevented the blooming. So again, for today's video, I'm just going to try and put those centres in roughly where I want them, and that's why I've drawn myself a bit of a guide. It's a bit messy, I'm no artist. Then I'm going to put these big blooms in, and if they bloom, put the dots on those petals alone, and then that's it. Then tomorrow, once it's cured, I'm going to come back and try and do these other petals in layer 2, and then layer 3 hopefully will be just putting a bit of a green stem in there, and a background. And if this doesn't work, it's a waste of a lot of resin, but I like big experiments, I like big projects, and I wanted to see what effect, if any, we're going to get from this. So I hope you're liking the content so far. If you are, do me a favour, click that little button there, like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a massive difference to us. Really trying to get over 10,000 subscribers at the minute. We've just gone over 6,000, I think 6,627 last time I checked. But let me know in comments as well if you think this is going to work, or if you've got any ideas, because I really want to make these orchids work, and I want to get something that resembles an orchid. And I think if this works, it will be my greatest piece yet. So that's what resin's all about, having fun, experimenting, and seeing what happens. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix up, I think, about 8 ounces of resin for this first layer. Now I do want to put it through a bubble removal machine. Now most of the mixing cups I've got go to precisely 8 ounces. If I put that in a mixing in a bubble removal machine, it's all going to flow over the edge. So I'm going to mix it in 1 cup, split it between 2, put it in my bubble removal machine, and then pour, and then hopefully see where we go. But I shouldn't need a lot of white for this, probably less than ½ a cup. So what I am also going to try is, when I first started working with blooms, I used this knockoff Ocean White from Temu rather than the actual Let's Resin one, and I got less blobbing, interestingly, and I think it's because it's a slightly thinner viscosity. So I'm going to try using this one just for this project to see if I get a different effect again, and to see if it works. So stay tuned. I'm going to grab the resin, pour it in, and we'll see where we go. So this is that thicker viscosity resin that I'm using, this Janchun High Gloss. Comes with the pumps. If I'm being honest, it doesn't work very well because it's a thick resin. They work really well on the 1-to-1 resin from Let's Resin, but on these, with it being so thick, it just doesn't work. So I'm going to pour it in, and as I said, I'm going to pour it into one pot for the mixing purpose. Always make sure your surface that you're working on is level as well if you're attempting anything like blooms, because otherwise it will shift where you don't want it to. So 4 ounces going in of this hardener. I always do the hardener first before the resin. Don't know if it makes a difference, but it's just the way that works for me. So that is now 4 ounces of the hardener. Now I'm going to go in with 4 ounces of the resin. And this is the premium clear resin as well. So again, I want 8 ounces I think for this first layer, because that should give me hopefully enough of a thickness to cover the whole surface, but also for that bloom to still have enough of a surface to actually spread. Little drop more. And there we go, that is 8 ounces. And as you can see, 8 ounces pretty much fills up the cup. So I'm going to have to be quite slow with my mixing here. But again, let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work? Or do you think I've slightly lost the plot this time? And even though I know it's all going to shift and move, that it's just not going to create a cool effect. But we will see. And as I say, because I've pretty much filled that pot now, I'm going to have to be really slow. But I didn't want to mix it up in 2 separate cups, and what I probably should have done is I've got one of these twin head mixers from Resin, as I probably should have used that, but there we go. And as I say, I think the key is going to be where I went wrong with that second bloom was with it being such a thick viscosity resin, I still started it at the same temperature, and I don't think I gave that bloom enough time to move in. But also by doing the bloom slightly smaller, I'm hoping that by doing it in 2 layers and by doing them smaller, it's going to create a better effect. But I don't know. We might find that we get 1 or 2 of these orchids work out, and then I know. Or we might find none work out and I just get a big blobby mess. But I wanted to experiment just so that if any of you, if this thought goes through any of your minds, you'll know whether or not it's going to work, or if you need to adapt what I'm doing slightly. So just going to, as I say, keep mixing this up. And I'll come back to you once I've mixed the resin and once we've got it out of the debubbling machine, and then we can actually crack on with the project. So see you in a second. So that's 8 ounces of resin. I don't think I've ever mixed 8 ounces in one go. It's the Janchun one, which is quite thick, but as you can see, it's just gone through that debubbling machine. And it's completely bubble free, so I'm really happy about that. I'm just going to check what the temperature is now to give me an idea of how long I'm going to have to wait. So on the top, another reason to split them as well, so that you don't get a flash cure. So again, just by splitting the pots, you're reducing that risk. So you can see I'm at about 24 degrees on the top, about 23 on the bottom. So I would estimate probably about 7 minutes, but I'm going to keep my eye on this until it gets to sort of 30 degrees. I think then when it's at 30 degrees, I can mix up my colours, I can get the white in the piping bag and I can pour, and that should give it still enough time to bloom. But again, I don't know how this is going to bloom either, what directions it's going to go in. It's probably going to move everywhere, but it's going to be a fun experiment. So I'll see you in a minute. Hi guys, and we're back, and I think we're about there now. So on the base we're at 28.4, surface we're at 30.6. Again, they're both slight difference in them, but we're almost there. I want the bottom bit to get to about 30, 31 degrees. So Just going to move those to one side for the moment, and that's why I've left this packaging on this mould as well. I don't want to get stuff all over the mould. So I'm going to need the tiniest bit for this because, as I say, it's going to be small. I've still got this tiny bit of gold mixed with papaya, so I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to get a tiny bit of papaya because I love this colour. Just for those center dots, and again they're going to be very intricate on this, so it's going to be an interesting one, and to see how much they shift. You know, I've got a feeling that this is going to look more like abstract abstract orchid art than actual orchids, but we will see. You know, it's that's what it's all about, having a bit of fun with it and seeing what, if any, effects we get. So again, just using the tiniest bit more of this papaya in there just to give it a bit more of an orangey sheen. And you see, that is why I've left the mat on, because I knew this stuff would get absolutely everywhere. So that's the papaya. Again, I'm going to need a tiny bit of, I think it was cherry that we used yesterday, this metallic cherry, and that came out really nice. Just for hopefully the center stems of those stamens. And as I say, none of this is probably going to work, but it's going to be fun seeing. So that's that cherry mica in there. And again, I'm not going to be mixing a lot in this. It's going to be the tiniest bit of resin because I'm just going to use a toothpick and dot around. If I've got any left in there, might as well just put it in there. And I think that is about it. So it's going to be really interesting, this, and I don't know if we're going to get any effects that we want or not, but I'm just hopeful that I do. And I love mixing different micas together, you know, and getting completely new colours that you've never seen before, and it makes the piece unique. And whatever happens with this piece, it is going to be unique. So I'm just shaking up this knockoff. Well, I say knockoff, it's an Ocean White from Temu, but it's clearly a copy of the Ocean White pigment from Let's Resin. Giving it a really good shake so it all mixes up, and that pigment mixes up. But this is a slightly lighter viscosity one, I found, than the actual Let's Resin one. So I'm hoping that helps me with the bloom. It doesn't make them too pigmented, but we'll find out. As I say, we'll find out together. But I think 29.6, so that is close enough for me. 29.6 on both, so happy with that. So I wanted to deliberately get it at around about 30-31 degrees with it being a thicker viscosity resin to see if that makes a difference. So all I'm going to do now is literally add the tiniest bit. This pot's got more in, so I'm going to add the tiniest bit of resin into here. As you can see, a little bit more. Careful not to add too many bubbles, but I want this to be reasonably thick anyway, because even if this does blob and I get those dots, I actually think in the first one that came out really cool. So that's that one. Again, the same for this pinkish one, which is just going to be to do those center stems, if they work. And as I say, I want to get this done reasonably quickly so that I can get to the pour and hopefully give everything time to bloom. So that's that pink. Just put that to one side. And now I'm just going to, which one's got a little bit more in? So that one has, pour in about half a cup of this from my white, because I'm not going to need as much as usual, because all I'm going to be doing is that first row of petals. Hopefully that's enough. So there we go, and hopefully I've kept the temperatures reasonably similar. Just going to put a drop and well, probably just one drop actually. And then I'm going to see what it's like. But as you can see, it's definitely a much thinner viscosity than the actual Let's Resin one. Because it almost spreads a bit like an alcohol ink, which is a little bit strange. But before we go any further, I've got all of those ready. I'm going to mix up the white. Just using one of these stirring sticks, make sure that's the right colour, and then we're going to go for it, you know. But as I say, this isn't as pigmented as the actual Let's Resin bloom. As you can see, it's still fairly transparent. And I might actually add a tiny bit more to that because that's almost too transparent for my liking. Just one little tiny bit, because I do want my white to look white, you know, rather than wispy or too wispy, which is the risk. But again, I don't want it too pigmented, otherwise it won't bloom properly. And I think that should get us there. So that's my white. Pretty happy with that. Still translucent, but it's got enough opaqueness for me to actually like it. So I've got a piping bag ready. And so the problem is with doing this, it's an A4 size piece, so I'm actually running out of space on my tiny little workshop. But I'm sure we all struggle with the same things. You never have enough room when you're starting with resin. I'm actually going to be crafting, hopefully, some new shelves and containers and things like that to actually store all of my micas in over the next few weeks. So that'll be another fun project, and that'll incorporate the resin and the woodworking side of the channel. So hopefully that'll be quite a cool project. But just getting all that white in there, and as I say, it's not too warm yet because of the fact that obviously I've done it slightly earlier. Normally I'd wait till 35 to 38 degrees, but with this being a thicker viscosity resin, I just wanted to see if I would get a better bloom effect starting it at a lower temperature. So there we go, that's my white ready. And now it's pretty much going to be time to get everything else ready. So just giving that a quick twist, and I'm using these small piping bags, and I think that's going to be enough because, as I say, these are the only petals that I'm going to be doing. So just leave that to one side for a minute, and then hopefully the fun part. He says. In fact, let me just mix up these other colours as well, so they're ready as well. So this is that gold and papaya, which I just want to dot in and create almost those stamens. But I love the combination of the gold and the papaya colour mixed together. So that, I think, will be more than enough. And just to save on the clear up, I'm going to use the same stick and mix in this goldy pink for the stamens. Again, let me know in comments if you think this is going to work, but if not, I think it's going to still look like a really cool piece of art. And that's what this is, you know, working with resin. It's art, it's about having fun, about experimenting and trying things you've never tried before. So as you can see, that template that I've done is just to give me a bit of a guide. I'm not expecting to get things perfect in any way, shape or form. And what I'm going to do is just pour around the edge first from this cup. And again, remember to use your stick to get it all out, because otherwise you're going to be wasting an awful lot of resin. I'm going to sort any bubbles out from doing this as well in a second, but that is 1 cup full, pretty much. There we go. And now the second cup, again, just straight on top of it, because I want it to mix nicely so I haven't got different consistencies in my resin. And hopefully that 8 ounces should be enough to just sort of cover that base and give enough space for the blooms to actually work. I don't know, let me know in comments if you think I've used enough or not, guys. So that is all of my clear. I can't get any more out. And that is pretty much the full 8 ounces. So I'm just going to move it around a little bit, and it feels so thick already, you know, and it is because it's that thick viscosity resin, that Jiao Chun one. And I've never ever poured in an A4 rectangular mold before either, so that's going to be interesting. And I'm pretty confident my surface is reasonably level. We will find out in this experiment. Again, you want it to be level, otherwise everything's going to shift where you don't want it. So that is those. I'm just going to torch the top to get rid of any of those surface bubbles that I've just put in, and then that should give me an idea of what bubbles I still need to get. And I'm hoping that that is fairly even, but again, I don't know. So there's a bubble there, just trying to force them up to the top. We're using my dotting tool. I'm going to go around the whole edge as well, because that's where bubbles love to be. And then get some of these bigger ones out of the center as well. And just make sure that my resin is reasonably bubble free before I start this, because the worst thing would be is if this actually works and I get an amazing piece and then there's air bubbles everywhere ruining it. And even though I've gone through the bubble removal machine, it's because I've played with the resin a little bit, mixing those colors, and I've also been quite, I suppose, vigorous when I've been adding it in. But this is your chance to get rid of those bubbles, as I say, because they will ruin the piece. So just take your time. We started at a slightly lower temperature, so hopefully that means I've still got some time. And I'm just doing that. And again, hopefully by doing this and sorting the bubbles out, it should make sure that we've got a reasonably even layer. And once they're on the surface, as you can see, they just pop. So try not to get too close to the edge. But again, I just want to burn them all so they're gone. Especially in the center, where I'm going to have, hopefully, I think the best orchids in the center where it'll bloom normally. My concern is that everywhere else in the piece, it's not going to bloom normally and it's going to really shift. And I don't know what that'll look like. But as I say, that's what this experiment's about. It's about having fun, trying something new for the first time and seeing what happens. Always wipe your stick off as well. I've got some really persistent bubbles just in the middle, and with this being a thick viscosity resin as well, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get them out. But I don't want them, especially not in the center. So again, just going to work them again and try and get them out if I can. But again, I am conscious that time is not my friend again at the moment if I want this bloom to work. But that really don't like all these in the center. I don't know if you can even see them. There we go, that's a few more of them gone. And never stay in one spot for too long with your torch, guys, because you will burn your resin, which will also affect how your blooms work and anything like that. Any little bits, I don't know where they've come from on the surface as well, I'm just getting rid of those. And then we should be ready to go. And I'm conscious that it will take me 3 or 4 minutes, I think, just to get these centers in. So I'm just going to go. This is going to be the last time. If there is a couple of bubbles in there, so be it. Okay, so I'm going to be using a toothpick for this, just standard toothpick. And the first bit I'm going to do is just try and get 3 little dots in that center ring. 1, and I think I've done the right amount of resin here, so I'm quite happy about that. 2, 3, he says. Ideally it'll just drop off, but again, I'm just conscious of time here. I've not got a lot if I want this bloom to work and still give us kind of a bloom effect. So again, 1 there. And this is probably the most intricate art I've tried with resin. But again, I'm no artist. I'm just having fun with it, experimenting and seeing what happens. Again, I'm not too fussed if they're all the same size or not, because I think in nature there would be different sizes anyway. But I don't want it too heavy because I don't want it to blob. Just lifting it gently, touching the surface, and then hopefully it will leave the blob that I want in these little flowers. And that's where it's really useful having that guide that I put. So I can try and go with roughly the direction that I think I want my flowers in. Again, just one there, lift it up, a little tiny bit more resin on there, 2, and this is why I said I wouldn't need a lot. Just trying to get 3 dots of this sort of colour in each, and trying to get it reasonably equal if I can. And I think, fortunately, I think the resin will have cooled down a little bit now I've poured it as well, so that buys me a little bit of time to get this done before the next part. And the good thing is it doesn't seem to be sinking yet, so that is the main thing. Again, just tapping the surface of the resin and then lifting up. Like that. Now this one I've got shaped that way around. And again, what I am conscious of is I do know that, as I say, as the resin moves in, these will probably move and look nothing like the dots that I'm putting in now. But I don't know. One. I'm trying not to rush it too much. But the good thing is that this doesn't seem to be sinking, and I think this will be the heaviest. So far, that is promising. And then it's just going to be if I can get that bloom to work in any way, shape or form. And again, I'm just being conscious to try and watch my hands so I'm not dipping it into the resin. And I think it's going to give us a really interesting look when all these try and shift into the center. Even though I'm going to try and do it in 2 layers, or 3 layers in total, I think it's going to give us a really interesting look. And as I say, I'm not an artist. This is just an idea I had. And when I get an idea in my head, it tends to not stay there. I tend to try it. So there we go. Happy with that for my gold dots. Just going to wipe this resin off my surface, otherwise it'll be a nightmare. Right, and now for this pinkish colour. Pinky gold, I think I'll call it. And again, I'm just going to use my toothpick, get a decent amount on there for this, and then just try and move it around as it touches that surface, a little bit like that and like that. So almost creating, hopefully, that stamen look. Again, let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work, or do you think I've just lost the plot? Either of those are a strong possibility. As I say, just trying to drag it down and across so it covers those gold dots on each one. Barely touching the surface of the resin though, because I don't want to encourage any kind of sinking. And I've just got to be really conscious as well not to actually touch the resin with my hand whilst I'm doing this. So we will see. And to think this is going to be a 3-day project. Or at least 3 layers. I'm hoping that I can possibly get it done in 2 days, depending on how quickly it cures. Just dripping it on, then moving it from side to side to try and create that bit of a stamen effect. Not the easiest thing to do. But nothing in life that's worth doing is easy. And hopefully, as I say, we're going to get a really cool effect from this. Just putting that dot on, pulling it down, and then trying to pull it from side to side as well, within the same blob if you can. If not, just get another one like that. But it is hard to judge it with your toothpick. And it falls off at different rates. That one might blob. It was a bit thicker than the rest. We'll find out. And so just starting off on that first gold one and trying to go from side to side if I can to create almost that little stamen effect. But we will see. So that is those. Now, believe it or not, I think that is going to be the easy part here. The hard part is coming up now. So it's about piping. And I've had very mixed results with piping. Some have been good, some have been bad, but I'm not going to take as much off as I normally do here with us doing such tiny petals. And what I'm going to try and do is use my guide and just put that first layer of petals in. Don't know how it's going to move or anything. And I say this knockoff, I keep calling it, Ocean White is a little bit more transparent than what I'm used to, and it feels a little bit thinner. So we're going to see. And I've only got this much, so I need to get, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 22 petals out of it on this first layer. Literally taking a small, tiny drop off, and I think that will be perfect. So starting in the center and just moving it round, and hopefully these will create those petals. Still wanting a decent layer on because I do want it to bloom still. But I'm not pressing too hard, because the last thing I want is blobs. But let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work? Or is it a lot of effort? What you think's just going to be a blobby mess? But do you know what, either way, I think for me this is art. This is what it's all about. Being creative, switching off from all of your struggles and everything else that's going off in life, just relaxing and trying to be creative and creating something that wasn't there before you started. I'm just praying that this blooms. But this is where, again, I think it really helps, just having that guide. There we go. I think that's it for this layer. So yeah, it's as simple as that. Now I'm just praying that those blooms come in together. In fact, I have got enough here to try and do a bit more, and then I can always go over it again in layer 2, just to give me a rough outline, I suppose, of where I want these other petals going. It will also show me roughly which way they're going to bloom in as well, I think. Trying not to touch each other there, if I can, and to just follow that shape that I've put on. And as I say, either way, I think we're going to get a very unusual shape on these because of the way in which the bloom will move. Just hope I've got enough of this white now. But I've committed to it now. Should have plenty actually, looking at that. And as long as we get some form of bloom effect on these, I'll be happy. Again, just keep pushing your resin down. But at the minute, it doesn't look as if it's blooming at all. It's not blobbing, which is great, but it doesn't appear to be blooming yet. And I'm just hoping that it's because the resin, because of how much it's probably cooled down, it's still heating back up, and that's what's going to cause that reaction to bloom. I am running low now, so just trying to make sure I've got enough, because again I think it'll look silly unless I can get at least this initial design in. And I've got 3 to go with the tiniest bit left. I didn't think that would be a problem because, as I say, I was planning on doing this in 3 layers, and I probably still will. But this will just give me an idea of which way the bloom's going. And if it gives me a couple of layers of petals, so be it. Have we got enough to do these last 2? Yes, this should be. But I need it now to bloom, or I won't be able to continue with the second part. And again, just trying not to touch each other, because I think that would ruin the effect that I'm trying to get. And it is trying to bloom. I can see it just on that edge, so hopefully it's gonna do something. What? I don't know yet. And I'm just wondering, is there enough room for me to have one more there? Probably is. If I can fit one in, I'm gonna try it, you know? Just because I think there's a lot of void space there. So I'm gonna try and do another one completely freehand with no guide. 1. 2, and this is where I get a bit too creative for my own good and ruin the whole piece. Hopefully not. Just want to get that on there. There we go. So that is my 3 dots. And again, I think I've got just enough white to get that one more. My stamen. And then hopefully I'm going to get a round leaf here, or petals should I say. Another one here. The surface one, triangle. And then kind of like a triangle again. And like that. And we will see. This one I probably should have separated a little bit more, but I don't know. It's starting to try and bloom there on that edge, which is good, but I don't know if the rest will. If not, we'll just have a nice white outline, and then I can think of what to do in step 2. So again, just going over it all now with my torch to A, try and get rid of any bubbles, but B, also to try and encourage that bloom effect. So I'm going to leave it there and we'll find out what happens, but I'm liking the way it looks so far anyway. I'm going to throw this spare resin into a mould, as I always do, and actually what I've started doing, I've got a dragon mould at the side of me which uses about 4 ounces of resin, but I thought it'd be quite cool to just keep on topping it up with whatever project I'm doing and see what it looks like at the end. So, and if you can see, I've already got some silver and some whites in there. So I'm just going to pour the rest of this resin in here. But let me know in comments, guys, do you think this is going to work? Do you think it's going to bloom at all, you know? I don't know. And that's part of the fun of doing this kind of artwork. You don't know what results you're going to get until you've done. But with me doing this 2 or 3 layers, if for whatever reason this first layer doesn't bloom, which I'm suspecting at the minute it's not going to, I can hopefully still correct that with the second layer, and then this white bloom that I've put on now will just give me a bit of an outline. Take one of my gloves off. And as you can see, in certain areas it looks like it's trying to bloom, but it isn't yet. And I've just noticed, actually, I'm glad I've still got this white because I missed 2 petals. Ooh. There we go, hopefully no harm done. Always double check your piece. I'm happy with that, that's all of them. So the rest of the white's going in that dragon as well. But as I say, it's either going to work or it isn't. And I think if this doesn't work, then what I can do is make the second layer really bloom, hopefully. And then it will just keep a nice white outline of the orchids, which I think would still look cool. So, but it's still early, I suppose, because I think because I've spread the resin out over that huge surface area, I think it really cooled down. So it might take it a minute to heat back up to create that bloom effect. I don't know. Julie from Pouring Your Heart Out, if you're watching, let me know your thoughts. Have you ever tried something like this? Again, if you're not part of her channel, make sure you subscribe to her as well. She's imparted so much knowledge on me when it comes to blooms, and I've learned pretty much everything I know from her with regards to blooms. So thank you for that, Julie. Let me know what you think, if you think this is going to work. But I'm going to come back now in about 10 minutes or so and just see what, if anything, I think is happening. So I'm back, guys. It's been about 10 minutes, and if I'm being honest, a bit disappointed. Doesn't seem to be blooming much at the minute, and I think it's down to that cheaper ocean white pigment paste. But I can see that the resin's starting to set up, so I don't want to miss out. Even if I'm going to do a second layer, I want to get this alcohol ink dots on. because then I think if I put the second layer on after with the alcohol ink drops, it will still give me a cool effect. So we will see. So I'm just going to drop some of this alcohol ink in this little pot, a few drops, and then just using a toothpick I want to put some dots in it. And it could be me being a bit premature here and actually not giving it enough time, but I've just got a feeling that the surface of this resin is starting to thicken up now and set up. So again, just got the alcohol ink in the pot. I'm going to get some on the end of my toothpick and just go around at least these edges whilst I can before it all completely sets. And if nothing else, that should create at least a bit of a design for me to follow with the next layer. And this is going to be a time consuming one, but I'm hoping that the results will be worth it. You'll find out along with me at the end of the video. And again, if nothing else, I don't think this is going to bloom anymore. I don't think there's enough pigment for it to actually spread inwards. But I'll find out. And either way, I think it's going to give us a cool effect doing the layered effect. I'm just trying to follow the shape of those petals that I've put in. And I'm just going around the edges of them all where that bloom is, in case it does actually still bloom. Because if it does and it spreads this in, I'll be quite happy with that. For a first layer. And again, let me know in comments, guys, if you think this is going to work or not. And I'm going to fast forward this so you haven't got to just sit here and watch me dotting around these little petals. But I'm just trying to keep it where I've put the white in and trying to follow those petals to give me that orchid-like effect. And I'm just focused on the edges, as I say, in case it does still pull inwards and bloom, which at the minute it's not looking very likely. So I'm going to have to think about that in layer 2. And there we go, after half an hour of playing with a toothpick and some alcohol ink, that's the look I've got. So I'm just going to take you down, give you a look. So I love the different shades I'm getting with that, but the bloom hasn't really happened much. And I think it's because I didn't do that white pigment paste thick enough. But the good thing is, because I'm doing this in layers, I think I can do that in the second layer and still get the same effect, touch wood. So I'll see you probably in about 6 hours, and then I'm going to go for this second layer. So I'll see you then. Hey guys, and we're back, and it's been about 7 hours now, and this I think is cured up enough for the next layer. So I've mixed up another 8 ounces of the gel trim resin. And it's already starting to have some really weird effects. I'm going to take you down to have a look a little bit. And it has started to bloom, but it's very, very wishy-washy with that fake ocean white bloom. You can just about see petals coming through. But it's also kind of boxed itself into, the alcoholics seem to have all sort of boxed themselves into this. That's a very weird effect. So I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, if I'm being completely... And so I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. It's also moving and shifting all the time. So My plan is I'm going to do the second layer anyway, because I've committed to doing this project now and I've already put 8 ounces in, so what's another 16 ounces of resin? For the sake of experimentation. The difference is this time, because of how wishy-washy those blooms are, I'm going to go back to using the proper ocean white from Let's Resin. Just see if that gives us more defined petals and blooms, and how this is going to look with it being layered. And actually I quite like the idea of having sort of wishy-washy blooms at the front with stronger ones behind. So I'm hoping that that is going to work and turn out okay. And then it should be ready for the final layer tomorrow morning, hopefully. It's about 9 o'clock at night now, so I just wanted to get this second layer on board and see what difference it will have. And again, the blooms that I can just about make out, they are pulling inwards, so it's going to be a very, very strange effect, I think. But that's what this is about for me. It's about art. It's about resin art. It's about having fun, seeing what effects we get. And I think I'm going to get really creative, hopefully, with the backing on this as well. So then at least if this doesn't turn out on the front, I'll have a nice back. So it's up to 28 degrees at the bottom. A couple of degrees to go. And I've got to decide now as well if I'm going to do the alcohol ink again on top of these blooms or not. I think I could overdo it if I do that, because I actually really like some of the areas where the dots have sort of turned into those patches where they've bloomed, and I like that effect. I think it looks really natural. So I'm going to try and keep that, but then I've got these dots on the outside that have stayed pretty much like dots, so I think it's something to do with the way that the resin is contracting in this rectangle, which I've never used a rectangle mold for a bloom before. And as I say, it's weird, it's almost a square rectangle there in the middle, where it's all pulling into, and then the outside is staying pretty much the same. So I don't know, this is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be really interesting now where I pipe because of the shifting that's already happened. Now my theory is, if I pipe the same places roughly where I piped the first time round, then it should shift in the same manner, because it's the same mold, the same resin, the same everything. But we all know with resin, it moves the way it wants to sometimes, and there's no guarantee of that. And again, some of these stamens at the side have really pulled in. So it's going to be an interesting look either way, and I think that's what I'm excited by. Do I think this is going to look like 12 pretty little orchid blooms? Probably not. I think I've come to terms with the fact that this is going to be, if anything, an abstract orchid effect. So we're going to see what happens. Exactly the same process. So what I'm going to do for you guys, so that this isn't a 3, 4, 5 hour video, is I'm going to fast forward it for you, and then I'm just going to make a decision once I've got those blooms in as to whether or not I'm going to go around again with alcohol ink, and whether or not I'm going to use the same one or try a different colour of alcohol ink behind, maybe a purple or something, to see what that would look like. Because as I say, I think this, no matter what I do now, it's going to be sort of an abstract orchid effect. It's not going to look like pretty flowers. I think it's the shape of the mould. I think they're not made to be done in a rectangle. If I'm to do this again, what I'd probably do is make the individual orchids in a small circular mould like that, place them inside the resin, top it up, and then obviously we all know that with clear resin, it should look completely clear anyway, and then do a backing. But that's not what this experiment was about, so I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to pour the resin, 28.5, so another minute. So I'll come back to you guys in a minute or so. We'll get on with round 2, let it cure overnight, and then put the back on. So we're almost at 30 degrees, so we're almost there now. So I'm going to mix up the white first and then just get on with this. And I am going to fast forward it so that you guys, as I say, don't have to watch a 3-hour video. So I'm just going to pour some of this straight in there. And take some from each cup so they're staying at roughly the same temperatures whilst I do it. I don't mind if I get a bit too much, because as I say, I can always pour the spare into that dragon that I'm building at the moment. So again, With this, I'm using the proper Let's Resin Ocean White pigment now. So again, I'm only going to put a drop in there. Sorry about that, guys. Delivery man at the door at perfectly the wrong moment. So again, just remember with this Ocean White, give it a good shake. Mixes up all that pigment. And I'm literally wanting one decent sized drop in there. And I think that should give me an opaque enough colour. Not too fussed about blobbing this time either, because I'm layering in it. I don't really think blobbing will have an impact because I've already got that first layer down, but again, we'll see. So just the one drop in there. I'm not going to put any glitter in or anything like that. It's just literally the bloom. And I'm going to give that a stir around. I've got pretty much a full pot to play with. And this is really concentrated. And look at the difference between the first one, which was that fake Let's Resin that I got from Temu, which was really, I suppose, skimmed milk. And I put 4 drops of that in. And this one, with 1 and a bit drops, look at how thick and opaque that is. So we should get some really good petals. And I'm hoping it's still not going to blob with the fact that I've done it a little bit earlier with this thick resin, doing it at sort of 30-31 degrees, but at the time of pouring, rather than waiting for the 35. I'm just hoping I don't get a blob effect. So that's all going to go in my piping bag at the side. Trying to get it all out and in there. And then onto the fun part, hopefully. And as I say, I have not got a clue what this is going to look like on the front, and that's what I love about it. It's going to be, after spending the best part of 2 days and 3 or 4 layers, it's going to be a complete mystery for me what that front's going to look like, as I'm sure it is for you guys. But that's what it's about. It's about these experiments. So my white is now in that piping bag and ready. Like that, and I've just noticed I've just dropped something in my resin, so I'm going to try and pick that off before pouring. Just that little tiny bit there. I don't know what it is. I think it's a bit of hard resin. There we go. That's gone. So, and again, you've got to be really careful when you're doing this that you don't get bits everywhere. So that's my white ready. I'm going to go in again around the sides first of all, just gently. And again, I'm intrigued as to whether that alcohol ink is going to stay in that pattern or not. Again, just scrape it all out. So you're using all your resin in there. So that is the first cup. And this is sort of 8-ounce layers I'm doing here, so it's a lot of resin. So I'm hoping I get something that at least looks cool, because it's going to have had the best part of 24 ounces of resin in when I've done. So again, I'm just hoping to get a cool effect. Otherwise I've just wasted 24 ounces of resin and it'll be my biggest fail. Let's hope for the better result, shall we? And there we go, that is all of my resin now in. And now I'm just gonna spread it around a little bit, make sure it's reasonably even in each corner. And it is quite a thick resin, this Jiaochun one. And that's why hopefully it should work for this project. Hopefully I won't get any blobbing, and hopefully we will get some cool effects. But as I say, it's not a thick layer this. It's just enough to cover, I think, this A4 size mould, and that is 8 ounces of resin. So I can't see any patches in there, so that's good. Just let it settle down for a second, and then what I'm going to do, in fact there's a bit there which just has missing a slight little bit there in that patch, I can just see in the light, and I want to make sure, hopefully, it's reasonably even. So I'm just getting every last drop of that resin out and in there, because there's no good it sitting in the mixing cup. There we go, I think that's all of it. And now what I'm going to do again, just to try and prevent any bubbles, is just go around the edge with my stick. bit lighter this time because that bottom layer still won't have fully cured yet. It's just hard enough, I think, to get this second layer on without having that line, what you sometimes get through layering resin. And again, just teasing those bubbles to the surface if I can see any. And at the minute, the alcohol ink seems to have stayed where I placed it, so that's good. And then just going to give it all a quick torch so I can see what bubbles I still need to get. Again, try and stay away from the sides of your mould when you're doing this because you will melt them. Right, so I can see a couple of bubbles there. I'm just lifting them to the surface. There's a big one there. Lifting that to the surface. Another one there. Quite a few here for some reason. Just lifting those up to the surface. And then I should be able to get them with the torch. And again, I'm having to be really gentle here because I don't want to scratch the layer underneath. But again, I don't want any big bubbles in this either. If I'm putting 2 days of effort into something, the last thing I want to spoil the effect are bubbles. But there we go. I think that's the majority of them. I can just see some stubborn ones. Yep. So again, you're just trying to tease them to the top, to that surface where you can get them with the torch. And I think, apart from that one there, I think that's actually in the bottom layer, so I can't get that now. These ones. And I think that's all of them. So again, just going to go over it with the torch again, catch those bubbles hopefully. And again, I think this helps it level itself out as well when you do this. There's just one more there that I think will really bug me if I leave it. So just going to get that one out as well. And let me know in comments, guys, do you think we're going to get a cool effect? Or do you think it's just going to look like a mess? So now that's done. As you can see, the temperature goes down when you put it on. So that's gone down to 28 degrees now. Now I've done that. But now I'm just going to get my piping bag ready. As you can see, it looks a lot more opaque already in that piping bag. And the plan is to just repipe around those petals. And I can just about see the outline underneath. And I'm still going to go with that outline, you know, even though everything I can see is moved. But the theory I've got is that if everything's moved now, it will probably, if I put it in exactly the same place, shift the same way. But I could be wrong. So there we go, my piping bag is ready. Let's do this. And again, it's a little bit thicker, but the colour is so much better. That white. So again, just going to try and repipe these petals in, hopefully without creating any blobs. And this should give us that second layer. And I'm intrigued as to what this is going to bloom like. Trying not to touch the other ones because that will stop them blooming properly. And just trying to be careful to keep to that original outline, because again, they're going to shift, I know that much, but hopefully they're going to shift in exactly the same way. So as long as I'm sticking to that original outline, we should, and this is all theory at the moment, get a similar bloom effect. And you can see I'm doing it a little bit thicker this time as well. So we should get a slightly thicker bloom. And I'm just hoping I don't get that blobbing. So that's the main petals. Now to go around these ones again and just put these outer ones in. Again, I'm trying to keep it the same as I did last time. Trying. And my piping has a lot to be desired, so I'm just hoping I can get it looking reasonably similar. Either way, I think we are going to get some sort of effect from this. And it's really difficult now to actually see where I pipe that first layer, because everything's sort of bloomed and hasn't bloomed, and I suppose gone all over the place really, and mixed in together. But again, hopefully we're going to get a cool effect still. Which one's this? So this one was this way around. My piping looks nothing like that first one. I'm just hoping I've got enough here as well. And then there's this one that I did freehand, isn't there? So again, circle around here. Another one around here. See, I'm having to cross them now because, let's say, it's been so difficult to just see and get that original outline. But you know what, that looks pretty similar. And then I am going to go around these bits where I think it's going to blob, just with my dotting tool to try and prevent it if I can. And then there's just that one there. And I think that's as close as I can get it, guys. So, not overly happy with my piping skills again. But anywhere where it's sort of blobbed like that, I'm just going to try and bring it round and prevent it from blobbing if I can. And again, every time I do this, it doesn't really work, but you never know, this could be the first time. Yeah, I'm just moving it around. And I'm hoping to get a more pronounced bloom effect with this as well than what I got with that cheaper version. And as I say, if anything, I think it'll be my piping skills that have let me down in the second layer again. They leave a lot to be desired. But do you know what? I think this is going to be some kind of abstract orchid effect, and that's what I'm after. I think that's pretty much everywhere that I can see that's possibly likely to blob. And touch wood, I haven't seen any blobbing yet on this. As you can see, that doesn't look anywhere near as neat as that first layer did either. But I'm just going to leave it now 5 or 10 minutes, see if that bloom effect starts to happen, and then make a decision on whether or not to put another layer of inks in, or what I'm going to do. There we go. So that is that. So I'll see you in 5 minutes. Hopefully we'll see this bloom in a little bit more now. Morning guys, and it's the next day, and I've just mixed up 8 ounces of resin, put it in the bubble removal machine, and I'm going to try and make this back look really good so that well, trying to anyway, so that at least if the front doesn't work out, I've got something that I'm happy with this 24 ounces of resin. So I'm going to try something I haven't tried before, and that is kind of mixing different colours together, different resins together, and then filling it with clear, letting it all close in to create almost a crackle effect. I've not done it before, so I just wanted to see if I can do it first of all. So all I'm going to do is just take some of this. I've not waited any time this time. It's literally straight out of the bubble removal machine. There we go. So I've got one in clear. at the minute. And again, I don't think they've properly bloomed. So I think the best I can hope for at this point is some form of abstract sort of orchid effect on the front. But it was a fun experiment, but it's been 3 days now. And if I'm being honest, part of me will be quite happy when this experiment's over, so I can move on to something else. But it's definitely the biggest one I've done. 24 ounces of resin is not a small amount. And I'm just hoping that I can get some form of result either on the front or the back that I'm happy with. So I'm just splitting the rest of this resin out into these other cups, or at least half of it. So 4 ounces. I'm going to try and do in colours, maybe a little bit more, into separate pots and different colours. And as I say, I haven't tried this technique before, but that's what it's all about, you know. And if I get something nice on the back, it's still a success as far as I'm concerned. But it is 24 ounces of resin. It is a lot of resin that I've used in this. So I'm just hoping tomorrow when we demold, I'm happy with one of the sides. But let me know what you think, and let me know if you like this sort of content. I thought it was slightly different to a conventional bloom video that I've been doing. And as I say, it's something that I've never done before. So all I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to get a bit of this clear, and that's all this one is, in this pot, and try and get it around the edges, as close to those edges as I can. Just so that there is a thin layer going around those edges at least. So that is my first layer. And it might need a little bit more actually, but as I say, I don't know, I've not done this before. I'm going to scrape everything out of the pot that I can, just so I'm not wasting any as well. And I'm actually going to move it all the way to those edges as well, just to make sure that I've got some clear on the edge all the way around, like this. And again, I don't know if this is going to work either, guys. The only other thing that you missed as well was in between videoing, I put some of my cat's eye alcohol powder, just dotted it around the edge as well. So I thought that would give it a cool effect. So that's my clear. Next thing I'm going to go in with is black. So I've got some black pigment, which is just from Let's Resin, these black pigment drops. It's not an alcohol ink, it is pigment drops. So I'm going to just put, I want it to be quite opaque. So I'm going to go with 3, 4, I think, for this, because I want it to be quite a dark background, and see what it comes out like. I'm just going to mix that. So I want it almost pitch black, which that's done nicely with those 4 drops. Look at that. Pure black. That is gorgeous as a black. So now just going to go around again the same edge, maybe a little bit further in this time, and hopefully that will give me the start of what is going to be quite a dark background. Again, this is the first attempt of mine at doing this as well, so if it all goes wrong, that's the excuse I'm using. So that is my black around that edge. Next I'm going to go in with my papaya, which is quite a bright orange. And again, guys, I don't know if this is going to work or if I'm just going to get a blobby mess on the back, but I wanted to have some fun. That's what it's all about. So a decent portion of that mica powder in there, because I want this to be really vibrant. if it works. So that is papaya. And just be careful when you're starting to mix your micas in, because they will go absolutely everywhere unless you're careful. And again, I don't know if I'm using enough colours for this to work or not. I've seen a few different videos where people just seem to have poured different colours around the edge of the piece, poured clear in the middle, and then it's made some really cool striations. So that's what I'm going for on this back, so that even if the front doesn't look great, if I've got a dark enough, colourful enough back, I'll still be happy with the piece overall. So there we go, that is the gorgeous papaya. So again, just going to go around, actually getting it in to where I've already put that black. And again, it's going to create a different effect, hopefully. So that is my papaya. Just going to put that upside down actually in that dragon mold, and hopefully some of it's going to drip out into there. Next I'm going to go in, I think, with another dark colour. So I'm going to go with this metallic purple, and this is a pigment paste as well, so rather than a mica. I'm just going to stir it around in there. Give it a good stir, and whatever's left on my pot is what I'm going to use. Again, it's starting to almost dry out that, so I'm not sure if I need to add something or if I just leave it as it is. Pardon me. I think I'm coming down with a cold. And so this is a really, really gorgeous colour as well. It's almost a metallic-y purple, which again is quite a dark colour. And again, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm just experimenting and having fun. That's what it is all about. There we go. So this is that metallic-y purple. And again, I'm just going to go in, no particular order, around this edge that I've just created. Doesn't have to be even. And I'm hoping that this is going to create some really cool sort of different striations, but I don't know if I'm doing it right. Haven't got a clue. This is just me having a bit of fun. So that is the purple. Next I'm going to go in with my gold. In fact, no, I'm going to go in with silver next. So silver metallic powder, this one. And I think the metallics will bring out a really cool effect, hopefully. So I'm going to go in with this metallic silver, then gold, and then clear. And see what, if any, effect it has. But it's already looking pretty cool. I think I'm already happier with the back than I will be with the front, but we'll find out. So this is that metallic silver. And again, just mixing it around. And I'm hoping that this will create quite a dark background, so if we have got a good effect with the orchids, it will really stand out. But if not, I'm hoping to have a really cool back, so we will find out. So there we go, this is that metallic silver, and look at that. It's like liquid silver, it's great. And this one, I'm going to try and get it as close to the edge as I possibly can, because I actually think it will sink down a little bit in the rest of the resin, like so. I'm just hoping I don't run out of space here. And you can see there's a bit of powder that I didn't mix properly there, so apologies for that as well. I don't know if that will have any impact on the final piece, but we'll find out. Just a little bit going through around the edges as well. Now I've got this streaky part. And then my final colour that I want to go in with is a gold, because I love gold, especially these metallics. So that is now my silver. Most of that papaya is now poured itself out into that dragon mould that I've got at the side. And the purple. Now just going to tip the silver one up as well. So this is going to be my last colour as well, and it's this really deep metallic gold. It's almost a coppery sort of antique gold as well, this. It's not too bright, which is again what I wanted. I wanted something dark. So again, I'm going to mix this and then go around that edge. Again, just trying to mix it properly though, because that last silver, as I say, some of it clearly wasn't mixed and I got some powder coming out, which is not what I wanted. So I'm just taking my time, go around all the edges, make sure that mica is really mixed in. And again, guys, let me know in comments, do you think this is going to make a cool effect or not? And let me know if you think the front's going to turn out. I don't know, I'm in two minds. I think it could give us a really cool effect, or it could look horrific. One or the other. So I think that's nicely mixed. As I can say, it's a really deep dark gold, this one. I absolutely love it. So I'm hoping these metallics will give us a different kind of striation effect. So this is one of the things that I absolutely love about resin. You can literally just play around with things, no particular order, have a bit of fun with it, and see what, if any, results you get. So that is my gold, and that's my final colour. I'm just putting that pot upside down as well in my dragon mould to hopefully get it all out. And now I've just got clear. So I've got a lot of clear. So I've got about another 4 ounces left in there, and I'm just going to pour it in that middle. All of it. Hope that it pushes it out a little bit and then brings it back in. Let's say it's my first time doing this. I don't know whether we'll get any kind of effect, because again, this rectangular mold for me with the blooming hasn't really worked, hasn't really come into that center. It's almost like this little rectangle here doesn't bloom, and maybe that's because the surface area, maybe that's because of how low I've been doing it. But what I want to happen now is for all of that to almost pull in. And what I am going to do is use my stick, and just because again I want to experiment, is just go around the edge in a bit of a swirl effect. Just where those colours are. As you can see, nothing special, just a little swirly effect so that they all mix around the edge, hopefully. And I'm hoping that that's now going to close in, but I don't know. It's the first time I've done this, as I say. Just going to go over the surface, get rid of any bubbles, hopefully. Because you will probably have a few in there just from mixing all of those micas together and metallics and stuff like that. But I can see where it's starting to close in now, and I'm loving the colour. Maybe I should have just done this rather than the orchids. But hopefully over the course of the next hour or so, that's all going to completely pull in and give me a cool effect. So, and that'll be it now. Tomorrow, get to demold it, and see what the final result is. So again, if you've liked the content, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. And we're going to demold this tomorrow, and I'm excited to be moving on to a new project, if I'm being honest. But 24 ounces seems to be what this A4 rectangular mould actually takes as well. So if anyone was curious about that, 24 ounces is about right. So I managed to get the 3 layers in, and that pretty much completely filled the mould. I could probably put a tiny speck on the back, but not much, maybe another 2 ounces. So I'm going to see how this closes in over the next sort of couple of hours or so. I'll come back to you and give you a bit of a picture of what it looks like in an hour. And then we'll demold tomorrow. So it's been about half an hour, and as I say, the problem is with this rectangle mould, I don't think it pulls in any in that centre. So again, just to try and encourage things, I'm going to put a few more of these wisps in. So you've seen me just put some wisps in on that time lapse, and I'm just going from the edge and pulling it into the centre, just to hopefully give me a bit more coverage of that back. And again, I've got some fine wisps in there as well, but I just want it to be darker, and it doesn't appear to be pulling in. So I'm just going to help it along, I suppose, with these wisps. And either way, hopefully, that will give me more coverage and a pretty cool back. I don't want too much, but I do want to make sure that I'm getting some good coverage, otherwise what's the point in using all of those colours? And as I say, I think the problem I've got, and the problem I had with the bloom as well, is they work so much better on circular moulds, not rectangles. And so I don't want to overdo it, but I do want those colours to sort of blend in the middle. And then I'm just going to swirl it around in the centre and see what, if any, effect this is going to make. It's almost like a vortex, I suppose, in that centre now. And again, if it pulls in more, I'll be happy, but I don't think it will, and that's why I'm just doing this step, because I wanted it to be a reasonably dark background. And in the centre now, I think I should have that. So that is that. I'm sorry I've not got my gloves on. It was just, I've been doing things around the house, came back to look at it and thought, you know what, this is not pulling in. So that's that, and then I'm going to just pull some of these finer wisps through with the tip. And hopefully still get a cool effect, so I haven't just wasted, let's say, 24 ounces of resin. It's a lot of resin, and I want something that if the orchids doesn't work out, I'm still happy with. And I am loving the way that this is looking now. It's almost like a metallic flames. Don't want to go too much, but I do want to hopefully encourage any kind of effect that's going to happen underneath to happen. And if not, as I say, have that nice back. Again, just pulling a few through, and I'm loving the way that this is looking. Just with all of those colours mixed, those metallics, papayas coming through in certain places, the purple is in others. And either way, I think now when this cures, there'll be some kind of effect in there. Is that central? Not quite, so Do it again. And there we go. Leaving that to cure now. Whatever happens, happens. And I'll see you in the morning for demold. And here we go. It's finally here, demold day for this piece. So really excited. I love the way that that back is looking now. Absolutely stunning. And as you can see with this rectangle mold, it's kind of pulled in to an extent, but it's just moved it into that smaller rectangle in the center, but I'm loving that. So even if things haven't worked out with the front, I've got something that I absolutely love. And as I say, it's 24 ounces of resin, so it's quite a heavy piece. And I just love the way that the way that I've swirled it round now, that almost looks like an eye in the center as well. And I'm hoping to get a cool effect where it has actually pulled in as well around that edge. So let's see. I'm not even sure how to demold this, but we're gonna do it and see if we manage to get an orchid-like effect on the front. But if not, as I say, I am really happy with that back. It is just the detail, the colors, everything about it. I'm literally, I think it's stunning. But anyway, without further ado, well, this is demolding surprisingly easily, and look at that thickness. Loving that. So that is 24 ounces of resin. And if this has worked, you know, the great thing about this piece is, I suppose you can have it that way round, and then if the other side has worked, as I say, you can flip it round, hopefully, and have the orchids as well. So here we go. I am really nervous for this one. As I say, it's that 3 layers. I can't see the lines where it's joined at the sides, so I'm happy about that with the different layers. It must have timed it about right. But I need to see what we've got. Wow. Now that is different. I love this outer edge. It's almost like a crackle effect. And then those little striations coming into the center. And do you know what? These orchids, they haven't bloomed properly. Some of them have, like this one, and some of them haven't. But I don't think it's unattractive as a piece. It's just more of a, I suppose, an abstract art. But again, I'm loving, part of me wishes that I did this same experiment again, just with that and without the orchids, because I'm looking through those orchids and there's some really cool striations, and the eye on this side as well I think would have looked amazing. And those orchids haven't really worked. I didn't expect them to be honest, and that's why I concentrated on that back. But look at the sort of crackle effect and the striations there. Absolutely stunning. And then it's almost got like a speckled effect as well further. But let me know what you think. I don't think it's bad at all. I just don't think it's sort of 3D bloomy, and some of them, as you can see, they have pulled in a bit, but it's not really worked for me as orchids, unless you were going for that abstract effect. But thanks to a bit of improvisation with the last layer, I'd still say that this is a success, and I absolutely love that. So let me know what you think in comments, guys. And again, if you like the content, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. This was a 3-day project, 24 ounces of resin, and as I say, I'm not overly pleased with the front, but I don't dislike the front either with those orchids. It's kind of a wispy sort of abstract effect of orchids. And I think if I was going to do that again, I'd make these up separately in a small sort of round mould, let them actually bloom in and then place them in, and then put the resin in. But again, that background for me is what saved it, even on the front. And I could probably look at this for hours, which is good because I'm gonna be. So as I say, like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you, no pun intended with the eye, on the next video.